from Monday to today, they're looking at a range of technical issues that are, in a sense, current. And one of those issues is on NGOs. First of all, let's look at what the existing law is. The existing law says that an NGO is provided it is engaged in charitable, ecclesiastical kind of activities, is not taxable. But once it ventures into doing things that are for trade or for business, then it automatically falls into the tax net. Now, 2 is, regardless of whether you are a charitable organization or not, you're expected to file your returns, even if your returns say 0. Now, that's an area that there's a gap. Because 1, we have NGOs that do not file their returns. And in fact, we've had to set up NGO desks in each of our various offices. And it has become a current issue in terms of what are we doing in terms of encouraging NGOs to file their returns on the one hand. On the other hand, there's a very thin borderline between when they say they are providing charitable services and they're actually doing business. And so we're coming up with a regulation on that to guide all those in the NGO business as to how to know when you're crossing the line and when we now need to tax, because an area that we haven't been really focusing on in the past.
In our line of work, we're a foundation and we make grants to NGOs. Typically NGOs and organizations that are not for profit. However, we realize that there's a sustainability question with NGOs. They have to sustain themselves in the long run. So I hope this law, and not
a law, a regulation.
Okay, the regulation. I hope this regulation, I really believe that the NGO sector is unregulated. It's a runaway train. We have to do something. But we have to be very careful because we have briefcase NGOs and we have NGOs that siphon funds because they're not allowed to make money to sustain themselves. And having looked at this, I mean, this is something that, countries are grappling with across the world, what type of regulation you should have for the non-profit sector. We should have, I hope this regulation is not saying that NGOs cannot engage in business that will sustain themselves, because there's a distinction. And I hope that as this regulation is going on, just as we talked about the CSR regulation, people that work in this sector can be brought in to advise. Because what will happen, and I've seen it happen in a number of other countries, is where it becomes so restrictive that NGOs are forced out of the market of doing good. And it's just food for thought for you.
First of all, thanks for the food for thought. And it looks like any time a regulatory agency is trying to put some sanity, there's always, oh, let's be careful. And I appreciate that. But at the same time, I will also appreciate that you actually give us ideas on how we can also achieve our own ends, without stifling the sector. Because just like you rightly mentioned, there's a lot of abuse in the NGO business. I mean, you have, all kinds of expenses loaded in the realm of we want to be sustainable or want to meet our own expenses, that you actually ask yourself, what costs are liable, what costs are not. So it's not a very straightforward issue. We'll have issued a regulation by now if it was as straightforward as I've put it, but it isn't. And like you rightly said, we have to look at all kinds of possibilities. But we would appreciate that we're not left on our own, to always think about the issue, to always look for the stakeholders to dialogue and see whether the regulation is there. I don't see enough of civil participation in ideas that go on in regulatory agencies. There's nothing stopping this group or any group from saying, look, we've noticed this, we need to improve the compliance rate in the country, this is the idea, this is what you need to do, this is a sample kind of regulation that you could put in place, and we're very welcome to listen to those ideas. So all I'm saying is, yes, we would engage once we've thought through what we think needs to be done and listen to all various stakeholders. But don't leave us on our own. There isn't enough of civil engagement and ideas that government gets to do its work better. There's always everybody waiting for government to think it through, come up with the ideas, and then let's contribute at that particular point in time. So I'm waiting for your idea. Thank you.